Probably, since the publication of Humanae Vitae by St. Paul VI, there has not been any Vatican document that has raised as much dust as the declaration Fudicia Supplicans, presented this week by Cardinal Fernandez with the Pope's signature, because this declaration allows the blessing of homosexual couples, and also of those other couples who are not married by the Church. During this week, I have read the declaration, the first thing I did. I have also read what has been written in favor and against. I have prayed every day. I have asked the Lord what He thinks. I have asked the Holy Spirit to enlighten me. I have listened to people who know much more about theology than me. So, after having read, prayed, and listened, I see myself in the duty to give my opinion and do it. I want to make it clear before God and before my conscience, without taking into account what some others may say, in one way or another, about what I consciously believe I should say about this declaration. As it is so important, I am going to do it by asking questions because I'm sure that those who watch the video will give it by themselves, without any doubt, the answers, and I am going to do it by reading the text. The first issue raised by the declaration is that the permission to bless homosexual couples does not imply a modification of doctrine to the Church. Many have adhered to this opinion. There is no change in doctrine. However, in 2021, Cardinal Ladaria, who then presided over the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, the same one that Cardinal Fernandez now presides over, under another name, and also with the Pope's signature, explicitly prohibited such blessings after explaining that the blessings that belong to the category of sacramentals, not sacraments, and clarifying that when a blessing is invoked in certain human relationships, it is necessary that what is being blessed be objectively and positively ordered to receive and express grace in function of God's designs inscribed in creation and fully revealed by Christ the Lord. Ladaria Doctrine of the Faith, year 21 says, therefore, compatible with the essence of the blessing imparted by the Church are only those realities that are in themselves ordered to serve these designs. From this, he concludes, for this reason, it is not licit to impart a blessing to relationships or couples, even stable ones, that invoke a sexual practice outside of marriage, that is, outside of the indissoluble union of a man and a woman opening itself to the transmission of life, as it is in the case of unions between persons of the same sex. Cardinal Ladaria's statement in 2021 goes on to say, the presence in such relationships of positive elements which in themselves are to be appreciated and valued is not capable of justifying them and making them the licit object of ecclesial blessing, because such elements are at the service of a union not ordered to God's plan. In 2021, the blessing of unions and couples is prohibited. For its part, Fudicia Supplicans affirms, after a long development of the concept of blessing, that literal text, prudence and pastoral wisdom may suggest that avoiding grave forms of scandal or confusion among the faithful, the ordained minister should join them in prayer of those persons who, although they are in a union that in no way can be compared to marriage, wish to entrust themselves to the Lord and to His mercy, invoke His help, and allow themselves to be guided towards the greater understanding of His plan of love and life, and adds, on the horizon outlined here is placed the possibility of blessing couples in irregular situations and same-sex couples. In these cases, says Fudicia Supplicans, a blessing is imparted that not only has an ascending value, but is also the invocation of a descending blessing from God Himself on those who, recognizing themselves as helpless and in the need of His help, do not claim legitimacy of their own status, but pray that all that is true, good, and humanly valid in their lives and relationships be invested, sanctified, and elevated by the presence of the Holy Spirit. It is still maintained, and Fudicia supplicants insist on it, the prohibition to bless irregular unions, including homosexual ones. However, in 2021, it was said that homosexual couples, among others, cannot be blessed, and in 2023, it is said that they can. Has there been, or has there not been, a modification in the doctrine? The second question concerns the argumentation to justify this type of blessing. Fudicia supplicans creates a new category of blessings that would be outside of the group of the so-called sacramental blessings, which he includes together with the blessings given in the sacraments, within what he calls the liturgical blessings, and for which still necessary that the object or the relationship to be blessed be objectively and positively ordered to receive and express grace. For this new category of blessing, it is no longer necessary that what is blessed be in accord with the teaching of the Church, because its purpose is to accompany the one who lives in sin, but does not want to stop living that way. The declaration says that this new class of blessings, which includes within popular piety, would be a pastoral type, neither liturgical nor ritual, and could be applied to things, places, or circumstances contrary to the gospel, since they would not compromise evangelical doctrine. According to Cardinal Muller's analysis of Fudicia supplicans, there is no biblical or magisterial basis, not even in the teaching of Pope Francis, to justify this type of blessing, since the Roman ritual already allows blessing someone who lives in sin. For example, in the United States and in other places, it is very frequent that at communion time people approach with their arms crossed over their chests. The priest knows that these people cannot receive communion and does not give them communion. He simply gives them a blessing. It has never been forbidden in the Church to bless sinners. Among other things, because at the end of the Mass, the priest gives them the blessing on all of those present, among whom there are possibly some or many who are not in the grace of God. With this type of blessing, says Muller, one could also bless a reality contrary to the law of God, such as an abortion clinic or a mafia group. And he adds, the excuse that this type of blessing would be valid because it would be spontaneous does not work, because even these are always possible without the need to be aimed at blessing intrinsically sinful realities. The excuse that they would fall within the popular piety is not valid either, because the blessings contained in the Roman ritual are already suitable for that piety, continues Muller. But it seems that this pastoral blessing is created on purpose in order to bless situations contrary to the norm or the spirit of the gospel. For this cardinal, it is inevitable that by blessing the couple's sinful relationship is blessed. Therefore, for Cardinal Muller's, the possibility of blessing the person is accepted. The possibility of blessing the couple cannot be accepted because that what characterizes the couple is the union that they have between them. They are not blessed individually. The couple is blessed, and therefore, although not explicitly, what characterizes the couple is being blessed, which is the union that exists between them, because otherwise they would not be a couple. Muller says, the sexual relationship outside of marriage cannot bring men closer to God, and therefore cannot be open to God's blessing. So even if this blessing were to take place, its only effect would be to confuse the people who receive it or who attend the blessing, who would think that God has blessed what he cannot bless, since the couple is defined precisely by their union. In addition, Mueller continues, within popular piety, there is, for example, the blessing in families. A concrete case in point, the son asks the father for a blessing to get married. This is very frequent in the United States and also in many countries of America. Or he asks for a blessing when he leaves home. Or he asks for a blessing for a job. Or he asks for a blessing for a study, for a career, and the father gives it, or does not give it. Does not give it because he considers that the marriage the son is going to make is not good for him. Therefore, within the popular piety, the father of the family or the mother can refuse to give a blessing when they consider that what the son is going to do or what he's doing is not good for him. No one, therefore, objects to blessing people who are in homosexual relationship, but it is justified that because it is supposedly spontaneous blessing, and within the framework of popular piety, homosexual couples can be blessed. When the blessing the couple inevitably blesses what makes them a couple, which is their union, even if it is said that this union is not being blessed. If, as number 38 of the Declaration, Fudicia Supplicans says, the closeness of the Church to every situation in which God's help is asked for through a simple blessing should not be prevented or forbidden either, is this number not clearly taking the step from blessing people to blessing situations? Since it speaks specifically, clearly of situations, are these situations limited to homosexual unions, or can they include criminal partnerships, as Mueller says, or even situations of pederasty, incest, or polygamy? Third question. It is argued in the Declaration that this blessing to couples is done out of charity towards them, so that they may feel accompanied by the Church. And with this, the desire that they may discover God's plan for them. According to Fudicia Supplicans, these forms of blessings express a plea to God to grant those helps that come from the promptings of His Spirit, so that human relationships can mature and grow in fidelity to the message of the gospel, free themselves from the imperfections and frailties, and express themselves in the ever greater dimension of divine love. In the letter published by Monsignor Alberto Molina, Archbishop of Quetzaltenango in Guatemala, regarding this point, he affirms that this blessing would be valid if it were the opening of the door to conversion, but that supposes that the subject, in this case the couple, wants to change, wants to stop being what they are, and the blessing is an assurance that God is there to help. That would suppose, adds the Guatemalan Archbishop, that irregular and homosexual couples who ask for a blessing want to leave their anomaly and ask for God's blessing to convert. But my assumption, continues Monsignor Molina, my assumption is that most irregular homosexual couples, when they ask for a blessing, ask for God's approval of their situation. For that, the priest should urge them to give them that blessing. He should urge them to that conversion and include in the blessing that request for conversion. So, to be honest, in real life, do couples who ask for the blessing want to convert, or do they want to continue with the kind of life they are leading? The Jesuit priest, James Martin, did not waste time once the statement was published. Perhaps he knew it beforehand, to make a montage with homosexual couples of his friends. He presents them like this, giving them the blessing inside, he says so, the Jesuit house, with some pictures of the Virgin in the background, and of course with someone who was taking that picture. Was that spontaneous? Was that discreet and reserved? Did that couple ask for the blessing to convert? Did James Martin tell them when he gave them the blessing that he was invoking God's grace for them to leave their state of life? The fourth point refers to the priest who gives the blessing. According to Fudicia Supplicans, since it is a pastoral blessing, spontaneous, encompassed within popular piety, and then not liturgical, he can do so. For Cardinal Mueller, that is not what is relevant, but what will characterize this blessing is that it is given by a priest and not by a layperson who is a friend of the couple. Can a non-liturgical blessing or a blessing be given that does not officially represent the doctrine of Christ and of the Church? Asks Cardinal Mueller, who then answers, "The key is not whether the rites have been officially approved, or whether they are spontaneously improvised. The question is that whoever performs the blessing is a priest, representative of Christ and of the Church." Fudicia Supplicans, continues Mueller, affirms that there is no problem in the priest joining in the prayer of people who find themselves in this situation, contrary to the gospel. But in this pastoral blessing, the priest does not join them in prayer, but invokes the descent of God's gift upon the relationship itself. Insofar as the priest works in the name of Christ and the Church, he pretends to separate this blessing from the doctrine. To pretend to separate this blessing from the doctrine is a dualism between what the Church does and what the Church says. The Cardinal goes further and wonders if a priest, taking all this into account, can accept to bless these unions. He may do so, he says, without acting in the name of Christ and the Church, but it would imply acting not as a priest, but as one who has disowned Christ. Therefore, he concludes, he commits a sacrilegious and blasphemous act against the design of the Creator. This also involves the diocesan bishop, who as a pastor of his local church is obliged to prevent these sacrilegious acts from happening, or he would become a participant in them, and would deny the mandate given to him by Christ to confirm his brethren in the faith. Terrible. The priest who blesses, according to Cardinal Mueller, is committing a sacrilegious and blasphemous act, and the bishop who allows it collaborates with it and commits it as well. And if a priest refuses to bless homosexual couples because he agrees with what Mueller says, or because he at least has doubts about it, and does not want to risk committing sacrilege, what would happen to him? He would undoubtedly be denounced by the couple who have been rejected and persecuted and even destroyed by the media. And in that case, would he be supported by his bishop, who would respect his choice of conscience? Or would he be punished by him? Either because the bishop agrees with what those blessings and accuses him of disobedience, or because he does not want to suffer the harassment of the media. For years, we have been seeing photographs and videos of priests blessing homosexual couples in the church, while it has been explicitly forbidden, without anything happen. And now, what will happen to those priests who refuse to do this? At this point, I have to say that I join the priests who have already stated that they will not bless these unions. When St. John Henry Newman became a Catholic, he gave a toast that became famous and was addressed to Anglicans who told him that with this conversion, he was giving up thinking. He said that on entering a Catholic church, the faithful were invited to take their hats, but not to cut off their heads, and then he toasted the Pope and his conscience. I repeat that today, although I love and respect the Pope, I cannot and will not bless those unions. And if forced to do so, I would ask God, in that blessing in a way that all would hear it, to have mercy on those who ask for it, and help them to embark a path of conversion. Finally, it should be noted that, as the declaration itself says, the acceptance of irregular couples has been made to satisfy those who were not happy with the ban decreed in 2021, as the declaration itself says. This is why it has been enthusiastically welcomed by the bishops' conferences, such as the German, Austrian, Swiss, or Belgian, and by bishops such as Monsignor Girard in France, Monsignor Wakawak of Diocese of Grand Rapids in the United States, who has also said that such blessings have been taking places for a year, or by Cardinal Kubik of Chicago. But this enthusiastic reception has not been general. The Archbishop of Astana in Kazakhstan, Monsignor Pita, has asked the Pope to rectify, because he says literally, it directly and seriously contradicts divine revelation and the uninterrupted doctrine and practice of 2 millennia of the Catholic Church. And also says explicitly that he acts correcting the Pope, as St. Paul did so to St. Peter, when St. Peter pretended to respect the Jewish law of not eating certain foods. In addition to Cardinal Mueller and the aforementioned Bishop of Quetzaltenango, the bishops of Ukraine, and those numerous bishops' conferences and dioceses in Africa have been very critical of this statement. So far, and there will be more, Malawi, Zambia, Nigeria, Benin, Togo, Kenya, and archbishops such as that of Abidjan and Ivory Coast, so much that the president of the bishops of Africa, Cardinal Ambongo of Congo, has described Fudicia Supplicans as ambiguous and has accused it of creating scandal and confusion among the Catholic people, for which he has called on all African Episcopal conferences to give a clear and firm collective response. But it has not been only them. The main organization of English priests, with more than 500 members, has published in a letter rejecting the Vatican document because of the general confusion it has caused, taking into account that in most cases couples who ask for the blessing because they are living in an irregular situation have no intention of converting, taking into account that this blessing is considered only one more step in the march towards the approval by the Church of the extramarital relationships, including homosexual relationships. As so many in Germany have declared these days, if they do not want to take the step they are asking for, the step of approving these relationships, homosexual relationships, as the declaration explicitly says, it is worth the scandal produced and the division of the Church to satisfy those who in any case will not be satisfied? Or is it that they are right, and this change must be seen as the first in others in line to the adaptation of the Church to the world? Can it still be affirmed, after the declaration of Cardinal Fernandez, that what was confessed as true and good yesterday will always be confessed as such? Or with this now declaration, will relativism have officially introduced into the Church? Finally, will this be the beginning of the end of the Catholic Church as we now know it, and the beginning of a new schism? Is that really worth the risk? Does the Pope want to go down in history as the one who took the first step towards that tragic rupture, even though both he himself and the declaration insist that there are no changes in the doctrine? I cannot finish without remembering that it is Christmas. What a topic to raise on Christmas Eve. There are many other things, for example, the conviction of the Cardinal Becciu. or the arrest of the new bishop of Nicaragua by the communist dictatorship. We live in complicated times, but we're in Christmas. I think that it is not time to lose hope because we are sure that God is the Lord of history, that He loves us infinitely, all of us, we who are sinners. But why does He love us? He wants us to lead us to holiness, which is the only way we can be happy on earth and be with Him forever in heaven. Merry and Holy Christmas to all.